Alright, so as you have seen in my video yesterday, I finished Chrono Trigger and I just started playing Final Fantasy VI, or in some countries it's called Final Fantasy III, which honestly is a little bit confusing, but I assume considering the vast amount of Final Fantasy games and them being not released everywhere or globally, I guess it makes sense, but still, it is really confusing. But for the sake of continuity, I will obviously call it Final Fantasy VI. I started this game and I wanted to give you like a brief, quick first impressions of this game. This game is just like all of the Final Fantasy games that I previously played, from the gameplay mechanics, amazing. It's really cool. And the storyline so far, I got 4 hours in so far. Really cool storyline with a couple of story beats that, truth to be told, surprised me a little bit in terms of the impact and the heft of a game that not necessarily is only targeted for adults, but obviously also for children, I would say 10 to and upwards or something. And there are a couple of story beats where I'm like, wow, that's some heavy stuff for a child. But it gives the whole storyline and the whole game some gravitas. What I do like also, just like in Chrono Trigger, this is pixel art. Still, although only 4 hours in, I'm already a little bit able to connect to the characters and to their storyline. And although I already have so many characters in my roster, I am able to connect to them emotionally in their storyline where they're at. The villain is already there, but he's still in his introduction state. So I don't want to comment too much on him yet. But the whole world where we are placed is really interesting. Without spoiling, I think this is not a spoiler, but we are in a time period where magic kind of has disappeared, and we are in this somewhat steampunk akin time period where you have like kings, knights, castles, and stuff like that. But you also already have some tech, but magic has disappeared. Yet there are some hints that magic exists, and people are like totally surprised. And there is a testament to Square. I don't know, is it Square Enix or a different Square studio? They craft the storyline so well that even though you're only looking at some pixel art, it is really, you are able to really connect to the storyline, which again kind of underlines why I have these. I'm in the job, but as I've always been saying, I'm trying to carve out 10 minutes to kind of reset my brain. And having a story, just like in Chrono Trigger, having a story that helps you to kind of completely get lost in it because it's written so well, although I'm only at 4 hours yet, helps me a lot to switch off my brains. The only thing that at the moment I really don't like coming from Chrono Trigger, if I would have come from Final Fantasy 4 or 9 or 10, no, I didn't play 10, 9. If I would have come from that game to this game, I wouldn't have noticed as much. But in Chrono Trigger, you are actually able to see your enemies. So it is not randomized when you are getting into a fight, and it's not as annoying. In this game, these fights are not only randomized, so you walk and then you suddenly get into a fight. You don't see an enemy, but you just get into a fight. And in the beginning, I'm not sure if this will change over time and if this is an intentional mechanic, but in the beginning, you basically, and I'm not over exaggerating, basically every 10 seconds you get into a fight. So you can't really walk that far and you get into a fight. And I'm not sure if it's intentional for the purpose of you grinding as fast as possible so that you get to a higher level. If that's the case, fair enough. I mean, I'm grinding really a lot at the moment, but for the intents of purpose to kind of play the story, it's just way too much. I wish there would be a slider that says like, okay, let's do a couple of less fights, but I don't know, scale the experience points a little bit upwards, because you are there and you kind of go through this dungeon or this house that has a labyrinth, and you try to memorize the way you're walking, but you get into a fight and a fight and a fight and a fight, and then you suddenly forgot, did I walk that way? Am I coming from this way? I'm not sure. Did I go this way? I totally forgot because I got in so many fights. So that is actually really annoying. And again, coming from Chrono Trigger, where you see your enemies, and where you are having a much easier time to not only escape, but also because you are not. So in Chrono Trigger, when you see an enemy and you go into a fight, you basically, the screen doesn't switch. There's just like your command center coming into frame and you start right away. And once you finish the fight, the command center goes away and then you can just continue walking. With Final Fantasy games, it's different. When you are walking your map, and you hit one of those randomized fights, it basically switches into a fight screen. And that loading mechanism going into the fight screen, and then once you finish going off the fight screen, going back to the world, it is fast, comparatively for such an old game. Still, it takes away a couple of seconds. So imagine you trying to memorize a labyrinth, and every 10 seconds you get into a fight, and before you get into the fight, you switch it to a different screen so you don't even have the ability to memorize where you have been. That switch takes 2 seconds or whatever. You fight, then you need another 2 to 5 seconds to go back into the world screen, and suddenly you totally forgot where you were or where you're coming from. Maybe if you are a heavy gamer, it's not that big of a deal. But for a casual gamer like me who only carves out like 10 to 20 minutes to quickly put in a gaming session, this makes memorizing what is happening really difficult. And that is something that a lot annoys me a little bit compared to Chrono Trigger. Again, if I would have come from Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy IX, I probably wouldn't have noticed as much. I still would have noticed the frequency in which all of these fights come in, but wouldn't really mind the switch from one screen to another. But Chrono Trigger does this really, really well and makes gaming from a casual gamer's perspective so much easier. So with that in mind, while that is annoying, overall, I really enjoy my time with Final Fantasy VI at the moment. I read that the storyline, even if you just play the story, it still takes like 15 hours or somewhere around that mark. And if you are a completionist, I think it's like, if don't quote me on this, but I think I read it's like 60 hours. So it's a huge game considering it is from the 90s. And that is so amazing. So this game is it's really cool from first impressions, 4 hours in. Looking forward to continue playing. I actually also looked a little bit at Secret of Mana. I kind of want to play that as well. Although looking at some of the reviews, the gameplay looked really confusing to me. But that's something that I want to get into. Yeah, I just wanted to give you a quick update on what game I'm now playing after finishing Chrono Trigger. Let me know what kind of games are you currently playing. I would really like to know. And yeah, if you want to see yesterday's video where I was kind of talking about finishing Chrono Trigger, check out the video up here. YouTube thinks that you like the video down here. Don't forget to hype, like, and subscribe to this channel by clicking the button up here. That way we see each other tomorrow. Thank you very much.